I'm joined here by our strategy specialist Don, and the reason that we are doing this call here is that because very often you see me talking about, hey, you need to build your own project and you need to build something real, and sometimes people just don't know what to do. And to help you along with that, I've brought along our secret list of a like big list. I don't know if you can see it. We'll run through it of project ideas, and those are to be seen as like starting points of your thought process, right? And before we go into that, yeah, hello Don. Um, Maybe you introduce yourself a little bit. Don is really the man, an amazing brain he hosts in his head really when it comes to specific strategies that our clients and people need to do to get into their goal quickly, right? Because every situation is different, and he's the man when it comes to that. He has very broad market knowledge as well. So hello, Don.
Hi, how you doing, everyone? Great to be here. Great to join you, Florian. Thanks for having me. And yeah, a little bit about me. I've been helping people out or strategy role now for a number of years, about 3 years, a couple of different roles in that, and just helping people really figure out really good roadmaps to achieve their goal, and maybe filling in the blanks for parts of that that maybe feel unclear for people that have no idea or are new to the industry, and then maybe bringing some clarity to those that might have some experience but have lost their way or overwhelmed in some way. So yeah, to be here and excited to talk through some of these topics. So let's do it, Fern.
We have loads of topics, and we will not waste any more time, ladies and gentlemen. The first project here on this wonderful list is named Alarm Clock, right? And the thing is, it doesn't sound spectacular in any reasonable sense, but it should be a starting point because everybody has some kind of alarm clock, and you might hate it or you might not hate it. But if you hate it and like you hate the snooze option or it doesn't do it in a way that you want to do it, you should be building a better one, right? And if you're the type of person that always sets 15 alarms just to get up once, right? Maybe your alarm clock application could be automating that in some sense, right? So always think a step further.
I think one that you can plug in better options than they offer you for the tone that it uses. I mean, my girlfriend hates the tone I have on my one. She literally wants to stab me every morning. So if you can put in, I don't know, some people like to be woken up with relaxing whale noises. If you can throw that in there, might be good.
Oh, maybe you should connect it into an electroshocker that shocks you awake. Anyways, whatever floats your boat, the idea is really that you build something that is of use to you. And one of the other, like, let's move on to the next thing. Let's not waste any time. Yeah, um, a meal or food journal, including a calorie calculator.
Yeah, I think with everyone's day-to-day life and so much movement in the world of people being more fit, more active, that kind of calorie, I mean, the things that are out there are pretty good, but if you could create something a little bit better, tapered or something that's more applicable, that's cool. I think something that people are using more and more frequently, and yeah, that's a cool one for me personally. That resonates with me. So
You're
I don't know
big
if
into food and cooking. We all know that, and I think we have some of the in those lists that are also related to that. Next one on the list here is a mortgage calculator, right? And you know that every bank
nice.
out there has a stupid calculator on the homepage, and everybody hates to use them. So build a better one that works with your specific situation. You might be helping out a lot of people with those
Yeah,
things
people
as well.
hate to use them because you use them and you get the answer, and then you go and actually apply, and then you get a different answer, and they're so far from each other that it doesn't make sense. So I think that's even if you see people out there that help people do that, sometimes a lot of ones that people forget is like tax, and
Yeah.
so there's some good one. There's some good ones there is
So,
play around
like,
with and
this is
remember.
actually the next thing here, tax calculator, next to the mortgage calculator on this wonderful list. And a very important point that Don just mentioned here, you don't have to find something novel per se, right? But very often those kind of applications exist, but they're just shitty and don't work right. And if you then can create an application that actually works right and actually provides some value, um, that's cool, right? I'm looking forward to the next one here that is an old one on this list, but a very fun one is a CD key generator, right? And maybe you collect all the games. Of course, all of them obtained legally, and you need a CD key. That can be a fun exercise for one, so you have to do a little bit of reverse engineering and create your own key generator, and it enables you to play your games, right? So that's definitely something that's fun. The legality
Yeah,
of this might
especially
depend on the country you're in, but if you don't publish it, it's fine, right?
I was just gonna say, especially if you're nostalgic about like old school or '90s games and stuff like that. My brother's big nostalgic on those kinds of games, so I think that resonates with lots of people. That's cool.
And that's definitely something to be considered if that's your hobby, your niche. The next one on the list is a code skeleton generator. So that might not be for somebody that is an absolute beginner, right? But if you have worked with code, and you will notice that you very often write very similar boilerplate code. Yeah? And now instead of rewriting that, write a program that writes your code for you. So that is a very interesting exercise for one, and it provides a lot of benefit for people actually writing code. So if you're a little bit advanced, look into that, look into meta programming. It's a highly interesting topic, and there's a lot of things to learn. The next one on the list is a front viewer and tester. Um, so maybe you're into graphical design in some sort of way, right? And you have collected a reasonable amount of fonts on your computer. It can be hard to navigate. Huh? And so that is something I like. I would like to have a proper management system for just fonts. I haven't found one. So if you are the man or woman to build something like this, pretty please send it to me when it's done. Um, Next one on the list, a Morse code maker, right? So you might think, why the fuck would I want to Morse now? It's not the 1900s anymore, the early 1900s. But I mean, I don't know, Don, if that has occurred to you, or if you have friends that are into amateur radio, right? Those people exist. And maybe somebody's in the chat here right now. So if you're into amateur radio, then leave a comment and we'll talk about that. But again, if that is something of your curiosity, of your interest, building something like this teaches you a lot of things, yeah, in terms of translating from one code to another. Very valuable. Let's look at the next thing.
Yeah, I was
Or
gonna say I
maybe
don't know
maybe Don wants
how
to
many
Morse. I
I
don't know.
was gonna say I'm not how many friends I have that are into amateur radio, but I've got a lot of friends that are into the next concept idea, which would be like a news collector or a game score collector across a
Hmm.
various amount of platforms. One of our clients recently, I know, was building one of these, and a little cool feature he added into it was analyzing games, and making predictions from the future because he was pretty big on his sports betting and stuff like that. So he was using a bit of a creative, let's say, way, and I think I have some friends who might like that kind of creative mindset of collecting that. But I mean, you take that away and the news side of it too. I mean, it's pretty cool if you could like access or automate how you access a whole lot of platforms across the world for specific topics, like crypto or politics, whatever it might be, and have that all really nicely put together in one place for you to go through every morning. And, that's a cool one.
That's definitely a field, a broad field of things where you aggregate things. And this is always a very useful tool if you have multiple sources. And as Don mentioned, one of our clients built something that predicts games, and I have no idea about sports, as you can plainly see. But the thing is that sports statistics is crazy, right? Like the detail that is recorded over like hundreds of years, actually. Like he's interested in soccer specifically, and there are some records of a guy that when he scored his goal, who assisted in 1932, right? So all of this exists,
Yeah.
including weather data and all that. And if you have all of that data and you learn a little bit about statistics, you can actually make predictions, right? So this is what he's working on. The next one on the list is a post-it note program. Um, Again, might be very simple. I don't know, Don, you are an organized man. How do you organize your notes?
I'm kind of a post-it note guy, to be honest. So I could, if anyone builds one of those, you can send it my way too, because I'll buy that from you. Because I mean, I don't get lost. I'm organized, but I tend to stick notes and then lose them sometimes. Or if you share a desk with someone, they get lost in translation, but actually just thrown away. You know what I mean? So that's a cool one. And I mean, another one, maybe the next one on the list is like a quote tracker or a market symbol tracker. So I guess you're tying that into stuff like if you're super interested in stocks or crypto or those kinds of fields, you can track a whole bunch of metrics and automate that. So again, if it's your morning news time and that's what you prefer, you can tie that in there too, which is pretty cool.
That's definitely a good thing, like filtering and working with. This is what we do, right? Well, what programs do, they process information so you don't have to. Right? And the more you can let the machine do it, the better it is, of course. Um, the next one here in the list is RSS feed creator, which ties a little bit into the thing we just talked about. If you don't know what an RSS feed is, back in the day when the internet was young, right, there was news sites and all that, and many of those provided a standardized feed of the content. And to that day, they still do. Many people don't know about that. So that gives you an avenue to actually have an easier time collecting those information. So you learn a little bit about the old web and the new web at the same time, and you get your news well formatted. The next one on the list is simply says text editor, right? And you might be thinking, yeah, well, text editors exist. Why should I build one? And um, if you work with code or if you work with text, like Don has been writing things right, professionally. Back in the day, maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. There's never the
Yeah, I
perfect
think that
text
was
editor.
yeah, I think that previous to a lot of newer text editors previous to ChatGPT for sure. So at the time, it was just tougher to find good text editors. Even it's a different bit of a different field, but if you're looking at generated captions with sports or lots of those kind of things are on massive global platforms are so sub average. I mean, if I look at the one right on the Australian Open that I'm watching, it's horrible. I mean, every fifth or sixth word is wrong, and you're thinking this is like a huge multi-million dollar kind of sports event, and they're still using things like that. So don't underestimate how those kinds of seemingly simple projects could still have huge applicability and ability. So yeah.
Would definitely agree on that. So then that is one that is dear to my heart. Yeah, it's called bulk renamer and organizer. And if you are of the type that not only streams the movies, but likes to actually have them on hard drives, of course, again, legally acquired, you need to organize that, right? And rename those files so you can actually find them again. And this is a very tedious task. And tools exist in various degrees of quality. Um, and everybody has their own way of wanting those things to be organized. So that again is a very cool project that can help a lot of people, and you learn a bunch about working with files like data structures. Super good project, also for beginners, right? The next one is a clipboard manager. Depending on the operating system you're on, it might be included and it might be good or not. And on a Windows system, for example, you can enable it that you have at least a history of the previously copied text, which is nice, right? But there are many more things. Like you could then organize it or send those past um, copies, basically send them to some other storage, send them via email, whatever you want to do. So there's a lot of functionality that can be added and can be very useful. So now this is always when we do those kinds of live streams, right? We always have new projects like ideas, and every time I read them, I kind of want to do some of those. And this will take away some time probably. But let's not get hung up on this. The next one, this is something that is a very good exercise and very helpful, right? A text to HTML generator.
I think if you look at that, it's the same kind of tying back into what I was saying with the text editor, just in a different format. but again, applicability across multiple platforms globally, huge.
Mm.
Um, I mean, companies like Netflix and those companies still hire manual, listening transcribers. Lots
Mm.
of people still use manual transcribers, which ultimately means that most places are still out there looking for suitable software to automate that, which leaves a huge gap that you could show a lot of skill in a project in to a potential massive employer like that.
I mean, that's a really interesting point. You see, the many people are beginners, right, or are already looking for a job, and they feel like, ooh, it's saturated because those types of software exist, right? And your whatever translator you build is not gonna be as good as the one that Netflix has, right? We all know that. That's fine. But if you as a consumer notice that the very big company uh, doesn't produce the like results, like good results, for you that means that there is a lack of developers there in that field because Netflix wants this thing to work well, right? They have people on that team trying to figure that out. And then if you build your own project related to that, you'll gain knowledge in that field, right? And by you knowing that in that field something is amiss, that means there are positions there, right? So always when you think about oh, this already exists, the big company like Netflix has this, still do the thing. Read into the materials, learn about the actual issues that exist there, because there is a need for improvement still, right? Don't underestimate that. Next one on the list, a chat application, right? And you probably are not going to build the next WhatsApp, I assume, right? The times, I mean, if you do, it's fine. Facebook will buy you for billions of dollars, but we need to be realistic here. But it is a very, very good, like again, exercise. You learn a shitload about networking on the internet, about distributed systems, and of course, there are a lot of chat applications around. Like there's Messenger, there's WhatsApp, there's Telegram, there's all the good stuff. Those companies also need developers. And if you have an understanding of how that works, that's the way you're gonna go, right? The next one on the list
Definitely.
is a very broad topic, but again, those are suggestions where you then need to start thinking into some direction. Build your own email server, right? Why not? So again, a fun exercise, but everybody works with emails. Everybody, depending on what you work on, you might love or hate getting many emails, but think in terms of spam filtering. Think in terms of automation. Maybe your mother-in-law sends you stupid Christmas greetings every month,
I mean,
right?
haven't you noticed how there's this like every website you go to, if you give them any information, somehow you get an automated subscription to something that just clogs up your spam filters or your spam folders and stuff. If you could automate something to just automatically unsubscribe from those things that start coming into your mailbox, man, I again send that my way because I feel like I'm constantly doing that for things that I feel like I never even came close to subscribing for, but somehow I get emails from them. So I mean,
So that's another good point. So you don't need to specifically do something off this list, but we have identified a problem here. People, me included, spend a lot of time just clicking on stupid unsubscribe links, right? And that could be automated and be very beneficial and again a good learning exercise, right? We're going down into the deep end here. So a network mapper, a network scanner, if you're interested in going into cybersecurity specifically, right? You need to understand how networks work, and no better way than to build a piece of software that actually maps out a network. Preferably your own, maybe the one of your neighbor, doesn't really matter, but you learn how it actually works. Because using a network scanner is very easy. You download it, you click two buttons, you're done. This doesn't make you understand what is going on. And as a security expert, as a cybersecurity engineer, however you might call it, you need to understand what's going on. And if you build something like that, you will have that understanding, right? Um, the next one is also a fun one, a peer-to-peer file sharing application. We do have a lot of things that are legal gray area here, but it matters not, right? As long as you don't share copyrighted material, all is good. And depending on how old you are, I'm old enough for that. I witnessed the rise of the first peer-to-peer file sharing system called Napster back in '99, right? That literally revolutionized the media industry to this day, where big companies like Sony and BMG and all the good like labels, things went down by one dude having the idea. So hey, let's share MP3 files. Why not? Right? And it
Yeah,
has led
crazy.
now to the situation where we actually have streaming services, and Sony and the companies got ahead twisted on right. Um, but there are still a lot of reasons why I want to maybe have a decentralized file storage of some sort. Might it not be for resiliency? So you have backups with your friends. Maybe you share your MP3s still if you have them. It teaches you a lot about distributed systems, a lot about networking as well. What else do we
Yeah,
have? This is something
yeah.
definitely I think for Don. The next one.
I don't know. Say if you're not into sharing files because you're too active to be doing that because you're in the kitchen cooking, which is normally what I'm doing, you could create a kind of recipe creator or a recipe manager or a automated weekly meal planner where you know what I mean. You could take it and you could add recipes to it, and then it could start giving you weekly suggestions for what your next week's meal plan could be. But it's all automated. I mean, how much time is that going to take away from just having to sit there and write that out if you do it, or if you're the kind of person who really doesn't think that way, or is really a recipe based person who prefers to just have a recipe and cook from it, you're just saving yourself so much time and effort right there. Yeah, I think that one's cool and close to my heart. Imagine you could just link that bad boy into Alexa and just be like, Alexa, give me a nice easy weekly meal plan.
You just triggered 200 Alexas. You're aware of that, right? Because everyone's sitting now. But hey, that is I'm a big fan of voice recognition services. I've built a lot of things here as in home automation terms. Having this work everybody that has one of those little assistants, might it not be a Google Home thingy or an Amazon thingy, they do have like the shopping list functionality. It's absolute garbage. Anybody that has tried to use it is worthless. Build a better one.
Yeah,
Make people
yeah,
happy, and then the thing should like generate recipes and give you things to cook. Right? That's all good. Next one on the list is a packet sniffer or port scanner. Again, if you're into cybersecurity things, you don't only need to understand how to use those tools, you need to understand how those work. And really the only way
yeah.
to properly understand it is to get your fingers in and dirty and like try to build one. And again, it will not be as good as the existing solutions, right? Because hundreds of developers over 10 years have perfected them to a degree. But I also know from my experience, sometimes those existing tools miss a feature that you need in a specific situation, and then it's time for you to actually implement that. So very good exercise, very important if you want to go into cybersecurity. The
Yeah, and
next
of course,
one, yeah,
if you're thinking off the bat, you're going to go into cybersecurity, then I mean, either way, the way you look at it, that building that, even if it's to a lower level, let's say, you know, you're going to show or you're going to develop the skill set you'd be looking for to work on bigger projects like that, or discover bigger problems or problems in software with those things. Either way, so you know, if you look at it like that, you're putting yourself in the perfect position to say, hey, I've worked on these similar concepts, or I built a similar, you know, to work with that, and now I want to like gain more exposed onto bigger things, solve bigger problems. You know, it's like a
that,
perfect
that's
what's
that's a
what I'm looking
very
for, platform to
yeah, it's a very good starting point, and having this understanding is your bread and butter in this industry, right? 100%. Now I lost track. I should mark them down with my wonderful cheap pen.
well, I mean,
Okay.
here's one I was thinking of real quickly as well, and that's recently a client that started working with us. He said that if you're a restaurant and you want to have an automated tracking application again, which might exist, but might be a very, let's say, non-thought about or non-prioritized kind of application that's been being overlooked. There's a huge scope for things like that. You know, restaurants and ordering. If you've ever worked in food and service or in F&B, you'll know that if you're on the middle of a night of service and you run out of something fundamental like napkins, I mean, firstly, your manager hates you. Secondly, you're just in for a bad time because you need napkins. You know what I mean? So if you can put a directive towards solving that kind of problem, I mean, that's just beautiful. So really
And
cool
that's
one that he
that's
came up with that he's
definitely,
working on.
yeah. This is definitely also something that is key ingredient. If you have some kind of work experience or other kind of experience in some field, it doesn't really matter, but you have niche expertise. So if you have worked on the floor in a big restaurant or whatever, um, you have inside knowledge and you know why the existing tools suck, right? Because realistically, what usually happens is that some company builds some kind of software, has good marketing, sells it to whoever wants it, but really doesn't have the inside knowledge of the ins and outs. And this is in any field. If you work in a warehouse, if you work in like as a taxi driver, everybody hates the software that they work with, right? Everybody that works with software, like as their day-to-day job, usually hates it, and they exactly know why it sucks. So now, if you take that expertise and then learn to program, you can fix those issues, right? And then you're very valuable even to the existing company. So always keep that in mind. Combine, find synergies. This is where the juicy and fun stuff happens. Uh,
Yeah,
um,
I mean
the
again,
next,
that's
yeah,
another way that you're using yourself when an employer looks at you, because it's not only you have skills, you have so much to offer, but also it's you're showing that tie in with creativity that you have, where you're like, I've also not only learned to fix the problem, but I've also assessed what the problem might be. It just shows such a nice dynamic array of skills in what you can do. And then being able to actually back that up with confidence and something that you've built to solve that problem, it just puts you worlds apart from someone who's built something much simpler, right? Or
yes,
what do you think about that?
100%, because there's two things. Like if you can build something simple, that's good, and this is where everybody starts. That's fine. That's fine. But if you actually want somebody to pay you to build something, you need to build a little bit more than simple things. That's just that's just a fact, right? And if you
Yeah.
can solve problems with software, that alone is enough. But if you have some niche knowledge, and it might be a very weird niche. I recently talked to somebody that is into a geologist, right? So he's very interested about rocks and found a like and I have no idea about rocks. Let's get it out of it. But the mining industry is also very interested about rocks, right? And with his niche knowledge and his programming skills, he can do very precise predictions and analysis on rock things, which the mining industry is very interested in. So that got him a pretty nice, high-paying job in a very weird niche that nobody has ever thought about, right? So the
Wow,
takeaway
that's
here
cool.
is rocks also need software, right? It's just how it is. Um, the next thing I want to talk about this because that is something that's on my personal pet project to-do list, but I
I
didn't
was
get
actually
around
going
to
to
do
say,
it.
are you really going to just gloss over the fact that people that take rocks pretty seriously spend some decent amount of money on diamonds and rubies and emeralds and sapphires, and
That's true.
quite some effort goes into to find those little pieces of heaven that women or men and women lose their mind for. So I think that's something, if you have a
I
niche
mean,
for it.
diamonds sound like money, but the fun thing is even the boring rocks are a business thing. But again, I don't have
Oh
any
yeah,
idea about. But yeah,
look,
if you
I'm
can,
from I'm from South Africa, and I mean we love a good coal mine. We're all about coal mining. So I mean I know about one good-looking rock that's great that you could monetize and find and stuff like that. But yeah, huge applicability there and a cool tie in there with something you wouldn't necessarily expect, right?
that's the thing. We live in a world where everything needs software, right? And any kind of niche knowledge that you might have can be leveraged. And this sounds like a generalization, but it is really the truth. I just want to talk about the next one because that is one on my personal list that I haven't got around to. Just a site checker with a scheduling, right? So a thing that actually looks at a website and then gives you concise information of a specific thing, right? Or reminds me of that. Um, in a previous job that I had to basically visit a few websites just to look at them once a day and see what the status is on those, right? Which is a very tedious and annoying, stupid task. And I built a little script like to do that, but I wanted to have a generalized thing that collects all this kind of data, and then if something changed on one of those sites, just sends me an email so I know about that, right? And I don't spend half an hour every day going from site to site looking at one word on that site, right? And I know a lot of people have those kind of situations in their jobs, and if you can automate that, you'll probably save a lot of time in your current job as well, right? So that's, I mean, that's a good thing to have. Right?
Yep, that's super useful.
Next one, and that is of course we have like this list has been collected over years, right? Social media. I mean, we both on social media now. You watching here on social media right now. There are lots of platforms. If you have been following some content creators, they are on all platforms because you want to reach as many people as possible. And there's really no concise way yet to actually manage your business case, right? So
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
are
yeah,
present on social media and you want, because everything's different, right? Depending on what you're doing. Maybe you are some kind of artist, you want to get your art out. Maybe you are some kind of investment company and you want to reach more clients. Your strategy is going to be different. The things you do are going to be different. And if you have, again, if you have niche knowledge in that regard and you can help a company like that manage their social media better, you're very valuable, right?
yeah. Definitely. I mean, that's definitely something that I think people are always looking to improve and make better automations too. So, yeah, jumping in from that one to the next one. I mean, airline and hotel reservation systems, because if you're someone who doesn't necessarily religiously travel with one certain company, or you don't always book with Airbnb. You sometimes use VRBO or Booking.com or whatever the case may be. So, automating, throwing all of those into one place. I mean, if I look at myself right now, I'm planning to do a 6 month traveling trip for the second half of 2024. So, I mean, that's going to be multiple places to live over the months, flights, reservations, and there's other things there that you could, if you're a like I am, then you could put into one place and really make cool. So something that
So
I think people find interesting that travel a lot.
it is definitely interesting. And funnily enough, one of our clients is actually implementing something along those lines at the moment because she also likes to travel and she likes to do like round trips, like visiting lots of cities. Like go there for 2 days and go to the next one, to the next one. Of course, you have transfers and flights and trains, like tickets to buy and all that. But she took it to the next level. So you can basically, she's not finished yet, but she's working on it. Get your list of where you want to go, right? And it will then check for availabilities, flights, and prices, and will automatically order basically your travel plan so you have either the shortest trip or the cheapest trip, right? So, and doing this manually for like 15 destinations is a nightmare, right?
Yeah. Now
Very,
imagine if
very,
you could take that and you could tie in a budget to that you have all of those features and then track it into a budget as well, that you can say, oh, so that works out that this month my expenses are going to be X for these accommodations and flights I've planned and train tickets and yeah, all of
that's
those
definitely
things.
something. And again, you can explore and you can always add features to that are useful, right? So that's really cool. And I'll
I
tell you
think
that
I think that's
it's a good idea.
something you touched on there. Maybe is also something we haven't spoken about, which is once you unlock the door to understanding the initial concept of one of these things that we've touched on potentially, the options you have to improve it, keep building on it, make it better, to make it more and monetizable are all there. And of course, now you've unlocked the skill of understanding, well, you built the first part of it, you built the initial application and everything that went into that, right? So now it's you've taken this huge leap from not understanding or not having a foundational knowledge to be able to complete something to now completing something and saying, hey, that was a leap I've taken. Now it's just a step to take it from here to add on a feature, to improve a feature, to reposition it in a way that just to make it better in a way that you've now assessed the market in. Your options become so much bigger on not only maybe getting a job, but also continuing to build out that application, continuing to improve it. So you're now continuing to learn, but also you're potentially building something which you could sell and make like really decent money from or implement in a way that could be awesome.
That's very true, and that is the logical progression, right? If you approach your selecting your project by actually identifying some need for it, your personal need, then the likelihood of other people having the same problem is very high, right? Even if it is a very niche problem. And with that in mind, this is also what our clients do. Sometimes they just build a thing and put it out to the public for them to use. Some people said, hey, I've solved a specific problem with a library, for example. I just open source that so other people can benefit from that. That's really the key ingredient, like solving some kind of problem. It might even be just a teeny tiny problem that you personally have. Right? Might just be, oh, I have this application, but it's annoying for that one particular reason, and they'll add that feature.
I was about to say that, yeah. It could just be something that does exist, but actually something about it really annoys you and you want to improve. That's something right there.
And with a 100% guarantee, you're not the only person that is annoyed by that. I 100% guarantee here. So the next one is also can be an exciting project, a family tree creator, right?
I'm glad we got to that. I was just going to touch on that too, because right now, and I have someone in my family who's super interested in that. And huge global companies that exist that you have to buy a test kit from them and do whatever and then post it to them and you get the results after a certain period of time and whatever. I mean, that's maybe an ethnic test or whatever they might call it, but
Yeah.
in a similar kind of thinking process, if you could find a way to improve that or automate that, I think a lot of people, and it's an increasingly more interesting thing that people are looking at in terms of their heritage or in terms of tracking their bloodline from where they came from and those kinds of things. I mean, it's been a very interesting topic that's been opened up. And I think if you could make that like something you could do in a very short period of time, or in an automated, it's really cool how I think people would be interested in something like that.
Mhm.
So that's too.
That's definitely if that is your interest. If you want to find out what your great grandparents did in 1605, right? You can find it out. The next one is also something, a library catalog, right? I'll leave this here as a headline, and you'll say, library is boring. Well, depending, maybe you'll find it exciting. Huh? And catalog is boring. Well, but the thing is, I think
Hey,
that is
hey, listen,
that
listen.
had.
People have different catalogs, right? Some people catalog their Pokemon cards. Some people catalog their pin collection. Some people catalog, you know what I mean? It doesn't only have to apply to, let's say, books
That's very
or
true.
movies. I think people catalog a lot of different things and collect things. Yeah, just always kind of broaden your horizons there when you think about something.
that that
Library
that
can
is
encompass a lot of different things, right?
that's very true, and maybe I should catalog my underpants. But what I'm getting at, even if that sounds maybe boring to you or maybe exciting to you, one of our clients is building something along those lines, right? And what she is basically doing, she's part of a book club where they basically exchange books. So not everybody has to buy all the same books, right? And this has grown to be a large size, not large-sized people, but a big group of people, right? And and it gets hard to see who hasn't read which book. Are they even interested in that? So she's building, or she's almost done building this, a system where people can say, okay, I have this kind of books, I've read those and those. those are available. The other people that are interested, like they can exchange books all around. They can keep track of what they have read and what they haven't read. And additionally to that, it also pulls information of those books. So if person A has a book with a title, you don't need to go research that, but basically in the application you'll see like the cover, right, the reviews and all of that, comments of the people from that book club that have read it, and then you can basically organize the transfer, exchange of books, and this is hugely improved like this book club's overhead, right? So again, a very niche thing to do, but it provides some actual value, and of course the learnings you take from that are huge as well.
Yeah, that's cool, and I think it's a lot of people as well are very nostalgic about still reading, paperback books or hardcover books, the feeling, smell of the paper, and that, and yeah, my girlfriend is a kind of person like that, so that's cool. And you touched on it already, but I was gonna say, cool added feature is if everyone in the club is adding reviews and stars and comments to it,
Mm-hmm.
then it makes it easier when you're going through the list what you might be interested in. So tying that one into the next one, which is, I mean, like a movie store or a movie tracker. I mean, for me, organizing all your old stuff, formatted movies, let's say, or if you selection of different types of VCR stuff, or you love watching movies that are black and white in the 30s, 40s, and those kinds of things, or have old games like we touched on. I love that. And if you could add a feature in that shows you when you watched it last. You know what I mean? If you have favorite movies that you love to watch, then you're like, oh, I wonder, I can't remember, did I watch this a year ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago? You know the movie so well because it's one of your favorites. You know you've watched it a lot of times. But then you can sort of like track when did you watch your favorites last. You know what I mean? It's a cool little feature you could add in that I think
And then
some people
get a
could love.
little notification. You haven't watched Spaceballs in 2 years. It's about
I was
time,
gonna say you
right?
haven't watched Home Alone since December 18th last year. The time is now.
The time is now. It's Christmas time. No, that's all good, and this is really a thing that gets more and more important because of the fragmentation of streaming services. Right? Back in the day, Netflix had all the shows. Now they don't, and you basically need 5 subscriptions, and you can't really keep track of those things anymore. So yes, very good thing to build. I haven't seen something like that. Right? There's definitely a need for that. The next one is also an interesting one, a patient doctor appointment scheduler, right? And this was one of the problems one of our clients had in his family. A few, like more than one of his family members needed a lot of doctor visits and needed a lot of medication and to keep track of that, right? And basically the healthy part of his family were taking care of the other part of this family, right? So they had to schedule and manage who could take care of who at what specific time, then arrange for doctor's appointments, and drive them there, right? And also keep track of all the medications they need to get, like keep the stockpiles up and running and all that. That was a huge like in time investment, and he built software to help his family specifically with that because he had that problem at hand, and now everybody of the family members know when all the doctor's appointments are, who is going to take care of that specific appointment, right? Who is going to get to the pharmacy and get the thing for person B, huh? So this is something where no actual software existed, and now this is a happy family, right? So that's a very cool niche thing, but very valuable, right? And actually improves people's lives.
I was saying my dad is that kind of person who needs that because I mean the amount of appointments and stuff that he has to keep and how my mom tracks. I think a lot of families have that person in the family who has a very, should we say, rigorous doctor's appointment schedule
Yeah.
and all of the medicine that goes into all of those things. It's a cool one with cool applicability. And yeah, if we roll from that to the next one, I mean, we kind of touched on it, but if you do something to do with the shopping cart, which is tracking your weeklies, or you could plug in different recipes or weekly recipe planners, which then tie into your shopping cart. So it's like, hey, here's my meal plan, and then here's the shopping list I need to get those items to complete that meal plan. You know what I mean? So it's like not only could you remove worrying about what do you need to cook, you could also remove worrying about forgetting putting something on the shopping list that you
Yeah,
need for the recipe. You know what I mean? So, I mean, if you've been a person who likes to cook in the kitchen and realize there's a key ingredient you forgot to buy and you were at the supermarket that same day, you know
that's
you want to
very
turn
annoying.
around and kick yourself in the butt. So
Everybody has experienced that. I think very annoying, very annoying. Then next here in the list is something that also sparked one of our clients' projects, a bulk thumbnail creator, right? And this client of ours is he does YouTube streams, right? A lot of game streams. And if you want people to click on your YouTube video, you need to have a good thumbnail. Right? And a lot of time goes into creating this thumbnail because it needs to have a nice font and it needs to have a face in it and an arrow pointing to it, and maybe a meme, right? And that's very time consuming. And he built a thing that where you can basically pipe in your YouTube video, it will automatically, by image analysis, pick a good parts to screenshot, then add the titles from a selection of titles, create variations of fonts and placements, right? So basically, with a 5-click procedure, you can select which one is the most to your liking, and it will generate new variations of that. So very quickly, you come up with a very clickbaity thumbnail, which is perfect, right? And it took a lot of his like annoying work away from him, right? And of course, he learned a lot how to program along the way. Never forget that, right? We're always talking, oh, the benefits here, well, that's cool. But now he's at the point where he has built the thing by himself, right? He knows how to do those kind of applications, those complex things, and this is then what gets you the job in the end, right? And you don't spend as much time building thumbnails, so wins all around, wins all around,
I
right?
think I think that the way that content creation in terms of everything, companies, people, brands, personal brands, corporate brands, all of those things, and the way that marketing has changed in that way across the board, having something like that to pick out, um, analyze, and suggest the thumbnails for videos, I think has huge application for people. I mean, content creation is literally like the greatest growing industry right now across so
Yeah.
many platforms, like I just said. So that's really a cool one. And like you, I think also we're talking about such cool ideas for the projects. We're kind of glossing over the fact that think about how I know I mentioned it before, but think about how creative or how attractive you would look if you've worked on some kind of project like this or had this kind of concept you'd built to an employer potentially. I mean, huge. I think the value that they would see or the value that they would potentially have because of what you do and how you could back that up with what you say. I think that makes you stand out from the crowd essentially, which is what you look to do, right?
Yeah, so that because that really is an actual, real demonstration of skill, right? This thing exists, this thing works, and if you're the one that built it, uh, I want you to work for me as well, right? That is really the thing. If I might be any trade, yeah? But if I see a barber do a real good job, and I see lots of hair and head, right? Um, then I want to go to that barber because he has proven, like physically proven, that he can do the job. The same is true for any kind of IT and software related field. If that barber only practiced on doll heads, meh, I don't, I don't really trust him to do a good job.
Definitely.
Okay, so
Don't
next
mess with the
one.
hair. Don't mess with the hair, man.
Don't mess. Like, are we pretty enough for this stream? I don't know. Chat can tell us if we're pretty enough. This is now a beauty contest stream, right? I'll change into my fancy clothes. No. Next one here on the list is a news aggregator, and if you like the news, I don't know if you specifically like news, if you like to read the news, you have various sources that you are interested in, and I know tools exist. I've tried them; they suck, right? Having that is, I think, very beneficial. And again, it teaches you a lot about things like how to actually gather information in an automated way. Right? This is
I was
a
about to say
huge.
if you work in any kind of like research sector or anything to do with the current affairs, research, very specific niche topics that you might
Mhm.
work with or comment, write about, or need in what you do business wise, this is also very applicable there for people because picking out from the amount of content that's out there online at this point, having something to pick out exact things on topics would be, yeah, I think something useful to a lot of people, personal and business wise.
That is really a new niche has been created in the past 20 years because we are at the stage where many people are online. We have lots of devices and we create a shitload of data, right? And like the data creation, that is easy, right? We're creating a however long stream now. We pushing bytes, right? But those things need to be concise and analyzed and used in some way because all the data in the world is of no use if nobody ever looks at it again, right? And having the skill of aggregating structured data from various sources, that's a job in itself, right? So if you learn about those concepts and how to do that, that's a very valuable skill to have.
Agreed.
And the next one really is a bookmark collector and sorter. There are two types of people in this world, in my opinion. People that are very precise and concise and organizing and saving the links, right? And the bookmarks. And then there's other type of people that just leave 5 million tabs open over months, right? Um, I'll tell you why that
The
is.
question is, which are you?
You don't want to know. Yeah, we all know. I'm the tab person, right? I'm the tab person. But the reason for that is that organizing my bookmarks is a pain. I feel it to be a pain. I don't want to create folders and like drag them in and like, organize them. So if there is a better way, please program it for me and all the other sufferers of multiple tab syndrome. That's now a condition, right? Medical condition. But that's the reason why this exists, right? This is the reason why we do this because organizing bookmarks is a pain. That's the only reason. It's not because we like not finding our tabs. It's just I don't want to organize that. It's annoying. I'll just leave them open. I'll need them later, right? Um, then one thing that's also here on the list that I think, I mean, times are changing. Nobody actually downloads things anymore. Everybody's streaming things, but you know, things disappear, right? Years ago, everybody was scared. Oh, the internet never forgets. It kind of does. It kind of does because we produce so much content, and like YouTube videos get taken down 10 years after that. Websites die, not there anymore, and some of the stuff you actually want to keep, right? And organizing downloads and like automatically doing this from various sites is kind of a thing that is missing in the current landscape where you want to download things. Very often you don't have a download button on that site. But with a little coding knowledge, you can still download this, right? So there is a lot to learn again, and this is very useful depending on if you are actually collecting data and you want to have it, even if the site goes down. Because then, if the site goes down, you can have the best bookmarks in the world. The thing is gone. Right? You're not getting that back.
Yeah,
But if you can mitigate that, that's a good that's a good thing, right?
yeah, I like
Um,
that. I think it's like you don't know what you've lost till it's gone, right? So if it's once it's gone and you realize you can't get it back, that's when you realize,
yeah.
dang, I wish I had something that could have saved that for me. Prevention is better than cure. Try and figure that one out. So I mean, if we roll with that one, something like a page scraper,
Mhm.
something that you could use potentially. Just a random example, if there's maybe a specific niche of things you collect again, or potentially things that you sell, like antique clocks or old swords, or I mean, there are so many categories like that. Figuring out or building something that would allow you to automate looking through a whole bunch of websites across across the board and finding good things inside your parameters of that niche item. Or, I mean, I look at things around at the moment where people make much money buying old furniture and restoring it and making 15x on what they spent. If
Hmm.
you had a page scraper to go and look for specific things like that you maybe restore or people restore, let's say, there's a huge thing there that could be pretty cool, and obviously it's applicable to so many different things.
That really is properly scraping pages and collecting information. We touched upon that. This is again a valuable skill in itself, right? Um, and you'll need that. Like I've been programming for ages, and automatically collecting data is like in every other project is a big part of it. Nobody wants to actually sit there and manually do this. It's super annoying. And go to sites and scroll down and find the thing and then put it in an Excel sheet, right? And go to another site that looks differently. And then manually put in an Excel sheet. And I know many people have those kinds of jobs, right? Nobody likes doing that. And that is something that can be automated and in my opinion should be automated. Right? There's really no point in us doing those kind of useless tasks. Right? Another one here on the list is building a text-based game. Right? Back in the days, those were the only kinds of games. Right? But the thing is, it teaches you a lot in terms of game design, even if you don't have a graphical user interface. And there are still games of that kind made. And it can be a very good exercise in because games are complex, even if they're text-based, right? You need to actually think about how you structure your data and how you have an actual experience, even if it's just text-based. So that is also a very good beginner project because you can build a very simple game in the beginning, add features and levels and doodads along the way. And if you
Did
Google
you
that, there
did
are
you
some
have
cool
any
text-based games.
do you have any text-based games that you played? Because I had a couple that I used to love playing that I was going to throw in here, talking about that and just how it's still applicable to modern gaming, and how I think there was a period in the 90s, if you look at games like Leisure Suit Larry or King's Quest or Space
Let's shoot
Quest
Larry.
or
That I
any of
haven't
the
heard that in a while.
but any of those kinds of adventure games, which were, there were so many nuggets and hidden secrets in them,
Mhm.
and the logical thinking process behind the game, I think even today, some of those games are incredibly difficult, even though they're text based. So,
Yeah,
there's a lot of cool things you'd learn and develop there. And as you said, still in a lot of gaming nowadays, it's kind of it's evolved in a huge way, but it's still something that's massively applicable and used.
100%, 100%. Next one on the list. Oh, that's a long list, my friends. But we'll get through it. You're still here. People are still watching. We can do it. So anything, this is also kind of close to my heart, anything home automation related, right? I'm, well, people know me, but I want to automate everything. I want to automate my whole life so I can just fuck around all day, right? This is for me the highest goal that everything can be automated. I'm very big on home automation things. I've built many things by myself, coded many things that go on in this house, and there are a lot of things to explore. There's many things that haven't been done yet, right? This is a relatively new field. 20 years ago, nobody had proper home automation. Now it's kind of easy to get the devices and all that. And the devices exist, the light switches exist, and like the thermostats exist, and all the good stuff exists. But there's still a huge lack of functionality that can be built in software. Right? So that is a wonderful thing to explore. Huge market also, and it automates your home, which is cool. And one of our clients is again building something like that to actually manage multiple homes because he found a problem that most of the home automation software that you can just get and do, they all tailored around having like one home, right? And all the devices get mixed up across those, and you need to kind of keep track of where they are. And some of the devices, right, they move from home to home. Let's assume you live in one place in summer and one place in winter. The light switches will still be the same light switches, right, in different homes. But a lot of your other stuff, your laptop, your gear, whatever, you those move location, right? And maybe you have your favorite nightstand lamp that is also integrated into your home automation, and you bring it every time you go to the other place, right? So those kind of things, like those are real problems. It sounds silly, right? But those are existing problems, and he's solving that by actually again aggregating and managing home automation systems across multiple homes because that was
You
missing.
know, if you wanted to and you could ask him to plug in something which you one of the lights broken or stops working for some reason and needs to be replaced. That's a little secret feature you could throw. Yeah, it'd be handy.
And automatically order it off Amazon. Right? Why would you need to do that? I should implement that. God damn, done. My personal
Sorry, I
list
know.
of pet project. All right, all right, okay. Um, so the next thing here that I find very interesting, many people, even if you're not a software engineer yet, we all work with computers, right? We do. And one piece of one item on the list here is called Quick Launcher. Um, and we all manage various applications, various websites, and all that. And quick launches exist where you have like, oh, those are the things I need like in one place, and those maybe I need to open those specific tabs, but the other thing actually requires an actual application. So those are things. If you are not, I mean, the senior, like the software developers like me, we just start our shit from the command line, right? But that's not for everyone. But having a proper launch menu is a great benefit. So that is definitely something to explore. You learn a lot about file systems. You learn a lot about operating systems. You learn about graphical user interfaces. You learn a lot of things and have a nice quick launch it.
And if you go from that, jumping in, I mean, quick launcher, that's cool. So one, if you jump into it, is Quiz Maker. I mean, if you're a kind of person who loves board games, game nights, kind of going out and doing it, or doing it with friends at home, building a little quiz making machine or quiz making game to have fun with, or make game nights out of. That's something you could have fun with, but also something which is super cool and something. Yeah, I mean, I'm a kind of person, so I love that kind of idea, and I think it's a forgotten tradition that people need to pick back up. Games and game nights.
I'm on your page there. A good quiz night, preferably in a pub. Yes, this is where I belong. That's very good. So in the same like on the same note, when we're talking about games, the next item on the list is an RPG character stat creator. People play D&D, right, or play whatever role-playing game they do because they play offline. That's cool, and those things get pretty complex, and you need some stats for your player character, various characters, monsters, whatever you encounter in your adventure. And having a tool to automatically, with a proper algorithm, of course, not just random numbers, but with a proper algorithm, can improve the life of the game or the dungeon master very much, right? And I've seen a few people doing something in that direction. Again, teaches you a lot about how to properly algorithmically come up with stats or properties that actually fit into a game of XYZ game you play, right? Because usually you can't just do random numbers. Yeah? Things level up. Yeah, you need to keep track of this. This all can be automated, and you can have a neat little app on your phone or on your PC to actually help you with that. So that's also something very fun to do, in my opinion. Um, next one on the list. Next one on the list. This is I see a huge need for that, but it's a budget tracker, right?
I think so many people underestimate how badly they budget, because I think I just don't even know how to express this enough when people say, I don't have money to, you can pick so many topics here. I really want to travel, I don't have money. But then if you sit down and actually go physically sit down and look at how much you spend on everything every month, you might realize you're spending a lot on Amazon shopping than you think a month. You might realize you're spending a lot more on a lot of things where if you really could register and understand that, you would have the money you needed to pursue extra learning, to take the vacations you've been wanting to. And it's such a simple thing that I think people overlook, just in general in life. It's like not being taught about taxes when you go to school. It's like a
Yeah.
silly thing. People like for granted that they think they know, but then actually they really have a skewed perception towards it. So budget tracker is a cool one. I
And
like that
that's
idea.
when I see things like budget tracker, right? That is definitely something people should do. Um, but again, it can be more powerful, and it should actually connect to your bank account, right? And have the actual data there. Maybe it can identify some subscriptions that you're paying that you don't actually need, right? There's free money right there. But it's only you can only fix that if you know about that, and like having an automated analysis of that can help you with that, right? Maybe you can also input all your receipts, right? And then you have they have actual proper tracking data, and you can have loads of features again, and you learn a shitload of things, and you save money. Like that's a good thing. That's a good thing. There is, I think there's no
Yeah.
doubt about that. You get more skills and more money. Oh, that's good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Um,
Yeah.
one thing that I see here also on the list, this is maybe relating to the tax calculation thing and the mortgage calculation thing. Um, people send uh, packages, right? The title here is postal shipping program, right? Cost in like a subtitle, cost to destination based on weight, etc. Whatever country you're in, the US, you have the wonderful United Postal Service, United States Postal Service, and you have FedEx, and you have all those people taking a box, bringing it somewhere else. But actually finding which is the best option now for that specific type of transport is kind of tricky, right? And they all have various cutoffs. So one thing, one one transportation company might charge more if you're over a certain weight, right? That's okay. That's cool. But there's no standardized way. So another company has a different cutoff point. So if you send a lot of packages, because you're the king of eBay, whatever, right? And right, um, and you want to optimize that so you don't spend as much money on like postage. And if a tool maybe could tell you, so hey, you put in your package, you put in your destination, and it tells you if that package was a little lighter, right? Then it's much cheaper. And maybe then you decide to remove some packaging just to get under the weight and then send it with a different carrier, right? So again, you can leverage that to a great degree for convenience, for monetary reasons. And again, this involves probably some web scraping. This involves some APIs. This involves some proper calculations, right? To learn all about those wonderful things and become even better at eBay.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, coming back to the pins idea, if you're trading pins, selling pins on eBay, you can be using that massively to your advantage. So next on that, talking about things in a similar way, I mean, if you have a TV show tracker that you could use, which maybe tells you things like when your next favorite show's season is projected to come out, or what spin-off shows they're releasing or are related to that, or if so
Mm.
many applications that you could play and plug in there that I think, yeah, I mean, that's like an excitement thing. Morning notification, oh, new season of Peaky Blinders is coming out, or new season of Gossip Girl, or new season of whatever people are watching these days. I can't even keep up with the amount of content that comes out, but keeping track of that, and again, like in the United States, the amount of platforms you watch across, I'm constantly going, where did we watch that? Was it on Hulu? Was it on Amazon? Was it on whatever? So having all of that
And
to
maybe
track
it
and report on
was,
one
and
platform.
it has moved, right? Because that happens. Huh. Last year it was on this
Right.
platform, now it is on this platform. Now you need you need another subscription. Um, so yeah, that's definitely something that's very useful. Again, involves a lot of technologies that you learn along the way. Very, very cool thing. Next one here on the list is a wallpaper manager. Right? Teeny tiny little project. If you're the kind of person that likes to change their wallpapers on their desktops a lot, manage those, like automatically change those. Have some algorithm to figure out if you're happy or sad and change the wallpaper accordingly, right? If you track your behavior and you have like a fitness tracker, like I'm just coming up with random ideas here, right? But let's assume I have a fitness tracker and I check my pulse and whatever. So from that, I determine I'm very sad. So now I get fluffy puppies as background. That might help you, right? Maybe my behavior decides that I'm too happy. So I get now sad pictures on my wallpaper to keep me grounded, right? No, don't be too happy. So all those kinds of things are fun. This is just fun. Yeah, this serves no real purpose except for you, like having fun, which is a purpose. Right? Don't you don't always have to serve the people. You can have a little bit of fun, right? But you learn along the way. You learn how like the file management of this works. You learn about behavioral algorithms and how to decide if somebody's happy or not, right? So those things exist. Learn about those. There's a huge market for that, and it's a fun little app. Why not? Next one here on the list is a housing market application. Right, the housing market is crazy, and that it doesn't really matter where you are in the world. Right, we have things are happening. If you want to buy a house, not an easy task to get the best deals, or even if you're looking for apartments. We have a client that built something around that because he lives in London, and London is like, apart from New York City, like the worst place to find a place to live. Right? This is kind of impossible.
Yeah. When I lived in London, it was definitely the case. That was like 5, 6 years ago, but that was the case for sure. And I think a huge one there that you could tap into is also when you're looking at, let's say, two things. If you're potentially immigrating or you're potentially taking, excuse me, a work contract in a different, and you have absolutely no knowledge about that country at all, how do you go about looking for a house or looking for an apartment to rent or buy? Either way,
Mm.
right? So if you had an app that you could assess that, plug and play for your needs in a very more comprehensive way than is offered at the moment, or you could get a very skimped version of on Airbnb. You've got something there which a lot of people out there to buy other houses in other countries or want to buy houses in other countries but don't necessarily know that market, and you're
Mm.
offering a tool which could show them a lot of things. Or yeah, that's a cool one there, right?
And the thing that one of our clients was building was specifically for London or the UK market. I have no idea about the UK housing market, and I don't need to. But the thing is, when you apply for an apartment lease or whatever, there are 5 types of standardized forms that you need to send to the landlord about you, right? And that's very cumbersome, and you need to be quick with that because as soon as the apartment is free, it's gonna be gone from the market pretty soon. And what his thing does is you can specify what you are looking for, right? In terms of minimum size, bathrooms, if pets are allowed, whatever, all the things that you need. It will automatically scrape various real estate sites, right, for those specific types of apartments that are a fit to you personally, and then automatically apply for like do the first initial communication, and when you then receive the form, it will actually fill out the form for you because you've entered the things, and then send that back. So you'll be the first one to apply for that apartment, right? And only for ones that you're actually interested in a specific price range, in a specific area. And the last feature he's basically added is you can tweak the algorithm to be very location specific. So basically, you tell them where you want to live, where you work, what kind of what's the thing when you
Transportation,
yeah when you go to work, like you
how you get there.
what's the word, like my English, the fun of being a non-native speaker, right? It doesn't matter, right? So but like the time you take to get to work, right? And you can tell it, hey, I want to live in that area, I work here, but I kind of I'm open to suggestions as long as my trip to work is below 20 minutes, right? So it can actually access like Google Maps and get the times for specific locations that you would take by train or by car, and integrate that into your automated like search. So there is always something to explore and to make it more convenient, right? And you'll automatically apply for the perfect apartments in milliseconds, right? Right after they go into the market, and this gives you a very high chance of actually getting them, right? So those kind of things start really small with maybe a small idea. With the first implementation, that's fine, and then features get added, and the thing actually becomes a proper cool thing, right? Even if you didn't set out to do that in the first place.
Yeah, that's super. Yeah, useful there. And if you roll that into the next one, and you can kind of tie it in the same way, it's like if you had to create a music tool which has a
Mm.
similar kind of directive, where you can assess and access from a lot of different parts, or automate. Let's just say automate songs from artists that you have artists that you love listening to, right? If you could automate the albums or songs from them you don't like, so that you don't actually get them in your playlists, or your preferences in terms of that, could also be something which you could tweak and would be interesting to look at, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because again, you have your Spotify, you have your Apple Music. It has an algorithm. You might like it or not, but curating music or like building your own algorithm to curate music to specific events, for example, or things you do, that is a pretty huge. And again, cool for you because now you can listen to cool music all day automatically. And again, a skill that is needed, yeah, because those are kind of features that the big players are missing, right? And if you have expertise in that field, go work for them and make it better, right? Um, and the last one, pretty much the last things here on the list is many people are play games, right? Playing games is cool on your computer. We all like that. I like that. I don't have much time nowadays, but I do like that. And if you want to become a game developer, a game should probably be one of your projects, right? Because
Probably, yeah.
probably. It doesn't necessarily need to be, right? You need to understand that if you are a good programmer and you've built your travel application, right, you have solved similar problems, even if you're not aware of that, right? So the travel application that we talked about recently, where you put in where you want to go and it basically finds the optimal route for you, this is a pathfinding problem. In any shooter game or whatever, where bugs or like people run around, right? Controlled by the computer, they are solving pathfinding problems, right? So the same problem applies in a computer game and in you managing your travel schedule, right? So there's always a lot of cross domain. So you also need to be aware of that. The specialization is like a teeny tiny part on top of it, right? Um, but if you want to not play games, make games. The best way to learn to do this is by making a game. And here you should also, because here on the list now we have a few games. Yeah, I'll go through that. You should build simple games first. Don't set out to build the next Counter Strike, not the next PUBG. It's not gonna happen. Those are all not one man shows. But build something simple because it will teach you a lot about the fundamentals of how gaming works and how the programming is for that. So really simple things like a role-playing game. We mentioned that, right? Things like Battleship, all the gambling games. Build blackjack, right? Build poker, like build a poker application, or even better, build a bot that plays online poker for you, so you earn money while you sleep. Again, might not be very legal, but it's a fun exercise, right? Don't get caught doing that. Don't get caught. But things like Pac-Man, right? Things like what else? Pac-Man, like a little pinball machine thing, right? Or the good old classics that you have, Space Invaders, right? Breakout. If you're young and you haven't seen it, like the old blocky games, right? Beepity boop. Build something like this. This is You might think, oh, that's a simple game. It's gonna be a big project, right? It's gonna
Yeah.
involve a lot of learnings, a lot of things. It's not something you build in a day, usually. If you build it in a day, it's gonna be a bit shitty,
Yeah.
right? But bring it to a playable point. That's what the goal here should be.
Definitely, because I think if you look at it in terms of how someone maybe new to the journey would see it, it's more like skill that you're developing building the simple game is all plug and play and relative to working on other games because the principles are the same. And the same thing we said earlier, which is you've taken this leap from never building any game to now having built a simple game. Now that after that leap, it's just a step from there to say I can now add features or work on a more intricate game because all the fundamental principles are still the same and I still have all of that knowledge to work off of while I'm now encountering new problems or working on bigger, better projects, let's say potentially, which I think
Hmm.
is just awesome the way that it all ties together. So, wrap things up. Last project on the list that you could think about is a household budget program. So, I mean, we spoke about a budgeting program for an individual. A family, mom or dad, or you're looking to plan family holidays, or you're looking to teach kids how to work a summer job and hustle and budget and save, you can implement this across the whole family. Make it
Hmm.
something fun that you implement with your family, where people save money or you guys hit a goal and take a trip. But building out how all of that would work, also, again, huge fundamentals and skills that you're going to build working with those concepts, and also have something that's really, really cool, something
Hmm.
that maybe you suck at budgeting and you can implement with your wife because you're trying to get her to stop spending. This is one of those ways.
Cancel all credit
You can
cards
hold her accountable,
immediately.
right?
But really, this is a good finishing line here because we talked about a budget program, right? And you take the same idea and just put it into a different context, and suddenly you have a whole different application, a whole different use case, and that is also something that happens very often. Take one idea, take one concept, and just put it into a different, like, pull it out of the thing where it is and put it somewhere else and see where you can go with it, right? If you build a game, if you build a game and they say, oh, but it's a simple game, okay, cool. Add a twist to it, right? Be creative. Um, Build that game into your budgeting system. So if you win the, I don't know, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff, and having fun is of course a big important thing. And now we're at the end of this list. I don't know how many of those we now talked about, and this has been 1 hour and 20 minutes, my dear friends. Um, those are starting points for ideas, right? And we talked a little bit about how like this silly little starting point evolved to an actual proper software product that is super useful. um, and this, if you're now thinking about building some of those things, yes, start them small, right? Don't reach for, I mean, long term goal, reach for the stars, that's good, but build the simplest implementation that you can first, right? So get the thing working. You're happy you made it work, right? So that's good. You have some learnings along the way, and then flesh it out over time, right? And anytime you add a new feature, you learn a new concept. I promise you that you'll never run out of concepts to learn. I haven't run out of concepts to learn after 20 years of doing this. Our coaches haven't run out of things to learn. And get used to just exploring new things all the time, because that is what you're gonna do for the rest, not necessarily for the rest of your life, but in a software engineering capacity, that is what you do. And if you enjoy exploring new things, that's the right thing for you to do, right? It never gets boring. That's the cool thing. Um, so I hope that gives you a good, like a baseline. I know that it's sometimes hard to find something. This list should help you. And honestly, because it's long, we skipped over a few things, right? So if anybody here, you can put it in the chat. If anybody of the viewers here wants to actually have the full list, send me a message. I'll get it to you, not in paper form. I'm not that old. I will not put it into the postal system. Now, of course, you'll get the PDF. And if you promise me that you actually implement something like that, then you're well on your way, right?
I actually thought you were going to promise that you were going to roll it each person who's commenting. you're going to roll it into a little scroll and put it into a tube and then tie it onto an owl and send it across. Isn't that what you guys do in Europe? Isn't that how you guys send it?
That is specifically what we do in Austria. But the problem that I have is I've run out of owls now, and there is a huge owl shortage going on. You might not have heard it in the media, but now we need to innovate. Now we use rats, but they're a little slow. So that's
Into my new scraping tools, gain some more knowledge on that. But
yes,
that
yes.
being said,
Scrape.
it's really been it's been a pleasure to be with you. It's fun. I think some super cool concepts in here, and yeah, man, you always wanna add that element like you were just touching on. You still got to enjoy it. You still got to have fun with it. You still have to make it, fun, enjoyable, and applicable, so that you're driven to complete the project and you
Mm,
really come to life. I mean, that's
yeah.
the passion behind any project that you're looking for, right? So yeah.
So those are really the two defining factors. If a project get go like you're a one man band, right? You're learning this now. You're doing this by yourself. You need to motivate you. You need to bring this across the finish line, huh? To be successful. And the two main components in that. This is also I'll tell it to like once a week. I talk to you people. It needs to be interesting, right? So that keeps your motivation up. And the second thing, it needs to serve a purpose because interesting alone is not enough, right? You want you want the end result. You want to have that piece of software because it provides some value. So with those two factors, if they are matched, right, and if you have that, you have something that they are interested in, and you want to have the end product, the probability of you seeing this through to the end is very high, right? And that's really the two. There's a lot to it, right? But this is the main two ingredients that make people go from "ooh, this is my starting point. I'm learning now," to later having the actual expertise and the project and the knowledge, right? And if you stick to that, you'll have success. This is what we have been doing with our clients now for a long time. This is what kept them hanging in there because it's hard along the way, right? It happens. It's not an easy peasy walk in the park. But if you have those two things in place, you'll motivate yourself, right? You don't lose motivation along the way. And then you see it through. And then this whole thing works. So we definitely went over time. So thank all of you for being here. I think it was a wonderful, nice live stream that we had here. We should probably do this more often to have a little conversation as well. And of course, anybody that's interested in having a little deeper dive, or if you want the list, yeah, reach out to Don, reach out to me, and we'll get it to you. So thank all of you for joining here today. See you next week in the next live stream with another interesting topic that I will come up with, right? And until then, implement those things, get the list, get some ideas, start coding. It's the only way to do it. So yeah, see you then. See you next time.
So yeah.